So here's our video today on solving. We're going to solve linear inequalities. That's our goal with one variable. Okay, so for example, let's just do an example. We have 2x is greater than, let's say, 10. So this is an inequality. We have the inequality signs, right? And we'll go over these in a minute. Also, an inequality sign could be not equal, right? So with this, we'll treat them just like equations, just like linear equations. We have to get rid of the 2. We have to isolate the x. And whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. And we have x is greater than 5. And we can put that on a number line. Here's our number line. Right, there's 0. There's 5. Now we're saying that x is greater than 5. It's not equal to. Like over here you can say greater or equal to, or less than or equal to. No, we're saying x is just greater. So we're going to just make a circle. We're not going to fill it in. We only fill it in with these two. And we're saying x is greater, so we're saying that x is going that way. So that's solving linear equations with one variable. Simple as that. Negative 4 is greater or equal to, and we'll put a 2 there, r plus 5. So that's a 2. Let's fix that 2. There we go. So if we have to distribute first, and notice the sign, this is an inequality sign that says negative 4 is greater or equal to. So let's just distribute. We're going to have 2r plus 10. There we have. So we don't want to get rid of the negative 4 because then we'll have a 0. We don't want that. So let's get rid of the 10 by doing the opposite sign. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So be careful here. This is negative 4 minus 10, which is negative 4 plus negative 10. That'll give us negative 14. So having negative 14 is greater or equal to 2r. Right? And we'll just isolate the r by dividing. We do the opposite operation. And we have here now that r is going to be less than or equal to negative 7. Also, I mean, you can also write it like this. Right? R, excuse me, we'll erase that. There we go. Or we can say negative 7 is greater or equal to r. So you can flip around the numbers, not the signs, but you can flip the numbers. It's the same thing. Be careful when you do flip those numbers that you make sure that they are in the same spot. Okay, what if we did, let's do another one here. What if I had a negative 3r, I'm using r today, who knows, plus 2, and we'll say it's greater than 12. So how would you do that one? So again, we want the r isolated. So we're going to minus the 2 on both sides. We did the opposite operation. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Bring everything down. Negative 3r is greater than 10. Right? Now, this is very important. We're going to divide out the negative 3. And we're going to do whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. When you divide on both sides, you see we have a division on both sides here. When you divide on both sides, you have to flip the number, flip the inequality sign. So this will be r is not greater, it's going to be less than negative 10/3. Right? And you can keep it improper, unless it says simplify that improper fraction. But a lot of times in high school, you just keep it as negative 10/3. All right, let's do a few more. All right, so here we have 2 more problems. Let's do this one first. Here we have fractions. So don't forget you have to distribute the fraction first. So you'll have negative 4/5 x, and then you have a negative and a negative is a positive. Just remember that. And then you'll have negative 40 over, well, actually you won't have a negative. It'll be 40 over 5. Right? Be careful. Always double check your work, because a negative and a negative is a positive. So keep it positive. And we're saying this is greater or equal. Remember, inequality sign, 18. Now remember, this inequality, by the way, you could write it, I'll bring it down here. This could be written like that, or sometimes it's written like this. Either way, it's the same thing. Actually, sometimes you might even find it written like this. Very rare, but you can see it like that. So we know 40 over 5 is 8, so if we want to rewrite this, it's negative 45th x plus 8 is greater or equal to 18. So what do you think the next step is? Let's get this out of the way. So we have to make sure the x is by itself. This 8 is in the way, so we'll do the opposite operation. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Bring everything down. Double check your work. We have a 10, because 18 minus 8 is 10. And now we're just going to divide. Divide out the 4/5 on both sides. Don't forget it is negative. Right? So what we're seeing here, we'll just bring an arrow up over here. Here's our arrow. We're saying that it's going to be 10, because it's the top number, 10 over 1 divided by negative 4/5. Right? Which becomes 10 over 1 times, because we know with division becomes multiplication, and you do the reciprocal. Right? And we're going to get negative 50 over 4. Equals, not equals, not equals. Keep that in mind. A lot of students do it, and I just almost did it myself. The inequality sign we're doing here. Now, look at this. Before we do the inequality sign, we want to know, this is x, right? We want to know, we have to flip it. Remember, because we're dividing a negative on both sides. So we have to flip the sign. And so if we kept the x there, instead of it being greater now, x will be, instead of it being greater, we're saying x is less than now. Less than or equal. Remember, it was greater before. So x is less than or equal to negative 50 over 4. Now if I wrote it this way, just make sure you have the right signs. X, instead of x being over there, we put it over there. So make sure it's still less than 50 over 4. And you can keep it 50 over 4. And make sure you always double check your work. You can be doing everything fine and then just make a common happy accident, as Bob Ross would say, right? So all right, let's do this one now. Oh, by the way, just looking at that, you can also simplify this if you want. It could be negative 25 over 2 and not equal to. It's just, this is another, it could also be that if you had to simplify it. So let's look at this one over here. Again, we have to distribute. Don't forget to distribute. So we have a negative 4 is greater than negative 2r, and then minus 6. Minus 6. So we don't want to get rid of the negative 4 or else we'll have a 0, right? We don't want that. So let's get rid of this minus 6 by doing the opposite operation. And then we're going to have a 2 is greater than negative 2r. And to isolate the r, we'll just divide out the negative 2. And we'll divide out negative 2. Now again, we're dividing a negative on both sides. Not on one side, on both. So we have to flip this number around. So it's going to be negative 1, because 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1, is less than r. Not greater than r. Of course, you can also say r is greater than negative 1. You can have it on both sides. Okay? Let's do one more. One more. Let's do it over here. How about we do a different color? We'll try this color. Purple. See if purple works. What if I had negative 1/4, and then we said negative r, using r today for some reason, plus 3, and then we say it's less than 8. Maybe that purple's not working out too well. All right, let's go back to the other one. Now we can erase this now. Take that out. All right. A little smudgy, but it'll be fine. So what we have here, again, we distributed. And we're going to say negative 1/4 r. Negative is positive, so it's plus 1/4 r. Always double check. Minus, and 1/4 times 3 is 3/4. Right? So it's plus 1/4, and you don't have to put the plus sign. So it's just 1/4. Again, negative 1/4 times negative r is 1/4 r. Don't forget the r. Don't forget that r. and then we're saying it's less than 8. So it's very easy to make these mistakes. You always want to double check. Don't rush. Now we want the r by itself, but this negative 3/4 in the way, so I'm going to add 3/4 on both sides. We have u to one side, u to the other. So we're going to have 1/4 r is going to be less than 8 3/4. And now we have to divide out the 1/4 on both sides. Divide out the 1/4 on both sides. Okay? Then we'll move it over here. So 8 3/4, if you want to make it easier for yourselves, you can make this an improper fraction. So you're going to have 32 plus 3 is 35. So you're going to have 35 over 4 divided by 1/4. Right? And 35 over 4 divided by 1/4, it's divided by, not multiplied. It's going to turn into multiplication. It will be 35 over 4 times 4 over 1. And guess what? You can just cancel out the 4's and your answer will be 35. That's 35. Now in some questions you might have to double check your work. And how do you prove you're right? You just take the 35, because that's what r is. And r does not equal 35. So make sure we know that. We're saying r, by the way, is less than 35. Less than 35. So let's erase this for a minute, and let's say what the number line would look like if we erase this. Let me get some. That's fine. Good enough. So here's the number line, and we're saying that, let's say this is 0 and here's 35. We're saying r is less than 35, not equal to it, so we did not fill in the circle. We would only fill in a circle if it was less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. All right. So let's prove that it is 35. How can we do that? Well, we're saying that negative 1/4, and then we're saying negative 35, it says negative r, plus 3 is less than 8. So negative 1/4, and this answer right here is going to be a negative 32 is less than 8. So now we have negative, and a negative is positive, so it's 32 over 4. And 32 over 4 is what? Is 8. 8 is not less than 8. But what we're saying here is that r, right here, has to be less than 35. If it equals 35, then we know that it will be 8. But we want it to be less than 35. That's why we wrote it up here, see? So that's why we're correct. Rewind the tape if you didn't understand that. We're saying r is not equal to 35. We're saying it's less than. And when we plugged in 35, we did get 8. Right? So we want r to be either 34.9, 34.8. It could be any number, that as long as it's less than 35. Right? It could be 34.9999. Right? That'll work. As long as it's less than 35. All right, so that was our video for today. Great job.